good morning, and welcome to this, our sixth episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. I think the best way for us to start is to be thankful to the Most High for sparing our lives to be here this morning. I want to be thankful to Him for allowing me to be here for the sixth episode and for allowing all our viewers to get up this morning and to be able to be tuned in to this program, which I promised this morning will be very exciting. All the episodes have been exciting, but I think this morning program will be even more exciting than the previous programs. When I sit down and I think about what I am to speak about, I put together some ideas, and then things intervene and causes me to rejig, causes me to adjust so that those current issues, can be addressed. I want to continue to be thankful for the interest shown and the growing viewership. According to Facebook Analytics, the last episode reached over 12,000 persons. So it is evident that the program is growing in popularity and the interest is there. I want to encourage you to share the stream, share the live stream, so that more persons can be aware of the program, like the page, so that you can get notification when the stream goes live. This morning, I plan to, last week I did tell you that about the worrying exponential increase in COVID cases, and I urge you, as I do once again this week, to make sure that you take all the necessary precautions to keep yourself, your family, and by extension everyone safe from this deadly virus, COVID-19. Today I will continue to address the crisis in the senior management of the Guyana Police Force. And as I indicated when I put the few notes down yesterday and last night, things intervened and has compelled me, or those things have compelled me to make a few comments. You know, as I've said, the program speaks about exposing corruption and incompetence, and almost every day you hear of issues that addresses or issues that draw your mind to corruption and incompetence. Yesterday, I saw on the news, on social media, that there was a robbery on the quarantine Barbies, where some business person, according to the report, was robbed of a sum of money. Various figures were called, 18.5, 20 million, whatever it is, was called. But what caught my attention was the response of the commander. And again, people may want to think that I am bashing these senior officers. I'm not necessarily bashing them. I'm just using these examples to point out to you the crisis in senior management that I refer to. Because the commander, in response to the media, I think it was yesterday, indicated that the way he plans to deal with a matter like that is to invite business persons in his division. He's the commander of Police Regional Division 6, which is East Barbies Quarantine. His plan to deal with it is to ask the businessmen to inform the police when they have to make these large deposits, so that the police can provide an escort, armed escort, free of cost. And I smiled, because I said to myself, and I'm sure many of the viewers will agree with me, given the lack of confidence in the police, I don't think business people are going to inform the police when they have these transactions to do. And when I read the statement, my response was like the young people, that is not going to happen, I don't think. So again, I'm not bashing Mr. Prasad. I know Mr. Prasad well, but if you were to check Mr. Prasad's background, one will clearly see that Mr. Prasad was not prepared for such a senior command. Let's be frank, let's be realistic. The Region 6 command is perhaps the second most senior divisional command in the police force. We always know that Region 4 it is 4A now. It's always a senior. Largest population is the art of the business and commerce in Guyana, all the activities. So that is undoubtedly the largest. The second largest used to be Borbies. I think it still is Region 6. And to have Mr. Prasad, who is not trained, who is not equipped to deal with such a senior command, speaks to the crisis in senior command that I was referring to all along. Mr. Prasad upbringing is in traffic. He spent some time in traffic. More recently, he was the second in command of the Regional Division 3. Then he went to Region 1. And from Region 1, he is now in Region 6. That in itself tells you that there's no proper plan. There's no proper plan. What is happening is just people just moving. And that type of thing will not get us anywhere. The senior officers are not properly prepared, they're not properly trained, they're just thrust into these positions, and therefore you have a response like the one you got yesterday, because clearly this is not a person who has been prepared for such a senior command. So again, that highlights the crisis in the senior management. That is one incident that highlights the crisis in the senior management that I have been referring to. And then I also saw on social media yesterday the incident, and here again, remember we're talking about corruption, incompetence, an incident where a rank from the police major crimes unit was charged I think he attempting to pervert the courts of justice. Now, it caught my attention because the release on social media, and I'm saying that that is the official release, but the release in social media raised some concern. First, it said that this offense is alleged to have been committed more than 6 months ago, sometime in June, July last year. But then it goes on to say that the rank appeared before the magistrate yesterday and pleaded not guilty to the charge. Well, that is what caught my attention, because as I know it, if the offense was committed more than 6 months ago, it meant that no summary charge could have been instituted. For your information, when a summary charge is required to be instituted within 6 months of the commission. So if a person was alleged to have committed an offense in June, the 6 months would have ended sometime at the end of December, early January, and then the charge would have had to be an indictable charge. And if the charge was an indictable charge, then the person is not required to plead. The magistrate would have read the charge to him and would have said that the charge is indictable, you are not required to enter a plea. And at some subsequent time, I suspect that the AJA, which is the Administration of Justice Act, would have been applied and the indictable charge would have been tried summarily. So let's understand clearly, something is wrong, and I will ask the police corporate communication unit, I refer to them as the propaganda unit, I will ask them to clarify, because something is wrong. Something is wrong to say that the offense was committed more than 6 months ago, and then to say that the rank was charged and entered a plea of not guilty. Again, for those of you who are not familiar, if the offense was committed more than 6 months ago, then the charge would have had to be instituted indictably. When an indictable charge, or when the person would have sworn to the information for the indictable charge, that's the rank who is the informant in the charge, then the magistrate would have indicated that the accused person was not required to plead. And at some subsequent appearance, then the Administration of Justice Act would have applied, and the indictable charge would have then been taken summarily. So corporate communication unit, you guys there, I understand drawing fat salary, do your work. Let the public be informed as to exactly what has happened. That is, if you are capable of informing the public accurately. So I just wanted to touch on those two issues before I go further. Now, I'd like to continue today's program before I go into the meat of the program. I note that several ranks in the police force recently graduated from the University of Guyana. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of those ranks and to encourage them to strive for excellence, not only at the university, but in their work environment. What pleased me most was to see some junior ranks graduated with diplomas and degrees, and you would have noted that several of those persons passed with distinction. I want you to encourage you to continue the good job, to make yourself, your family, the force proud. Having said that, let me warn you that the fact that you are now qualified, you have a degree, you have a diploma, you might incur the wrath of some corrupt officers, some incompetent, those self-serving ones, because people might now see you as a threat. So yes, it is good to qualify yourselves. Again, I congratulate you, but I say to you, you have to do like what the boxing referee, the last caution a boxing referee gives to the opponents in the ring is to protect yourself at all times. So I want to caution you and to say to you, the fact that you have now qualified yourself, you have diplomas and you have degrees, that in itself might cause people to come after you, because you have several persons in senior positions in the Ghana Police Force who just have their board certificates, and perhaps if they were married, they have their marriage certificate. They have no tertiary qualification, and they might very well see you as a threat. So make sure that you walk the straight and narrow. Now let me move on to say, and to move on from that, quite recently the president announced that government will pay tuition costs for police commanders to attend university to pursue force and advanced degrees. I asked in the previous program, I queried what process will be used to identify those commanders. And then, because, as again I've said before, all the commanders, and in relation to the number of ranks in the force, commanders are not that many. You have the 10 regional commanders, used to be referred to as divisional commanders, and then you have the branch commanders. I think they might be about the same number of branch commanders. So based on what the president has said, you're talking about identifying about 20 persons for the government to pay for their tuition. That might be well-intentioned, but I say that has to go further, because again, the concern is when you speak about the commanders, or when you speak about paying for the tuition of commanders, given the involvement of government, senior government functionaries in posting, in identifying, in placing commanders, one must query what process will be used to we need to be careful with that. It comes across as being very nice. The president is going to pay for tuition, but then we have to look at it more deeply. And again, why I ask the question, why should such a program be limited to commanders only? Why? You have lots of ranks, as we have seen in the recent list of persons who have graduated. Lots of people right down to the level of corporal, perhaps. You have had constables as well who graduated with diplomas and degrees. So why commanders only? Why commanders only? Then we have the issue of, I would like to, let me say this clearly. I am not against persons getting being paid. And when you talk about tertiary education for police officers and police other ranks, you have to always remember the name of the late Commissioner Larry Lewis. He was a pioneer in this regard. Back in the early 90s when he became commissioner, he insisted that his officers, especially the senior ones and even the middle management one, even subordinate officers, he insisted that they go to university and qualify themselves. So it started really in the early 90s where the commissioner mandated. He actually, in many cases, he selected officers who were in certain positions and said, look, you have to go to the university. I would like to take this opportunity to ask and to urge that the program be extended to other ranks in the force. Maybe as a show of goodwill and intention, the government can pay the cost of the tuition of the persons who recently graduated. I'm sure that will not be asking too much. I want to, as we are on training, I want to also take this opportunity to congratulate Colonel Raul Jerick of the Guyana Defense Force, who recently graduated with a Master's of Arts degree in Security Studies from the prestigious university in the United States. Congratulations, Colonel Jerick. I also saw recently but before I go on, I would like to make the point that the Guyana Defense Force has always been exposing its senior officers to high-end training abroad in their various specialities. And that is a good thing. It's unfortunately, the force has not been doing, the Guyana Police Force has not been doing the same thing recently. Now, I also noted a release from the Guyana Police Force that the recently appointed Chief of Staff from the Belize Defense Force is a graduate of the Guyana Defense Force's Standard Military Officers Schools. Congratulations to General Loria, I think is his name. Congratulations to the Guyana Defense Force. Again, it's an indication that we have the quality in Guyana. At least we have the programs that can make sure that senior people are properly trained. I hope the police force will take a page or perhaps take the old book. I indicated in an earlier program that the Guyana Police Force also had conducted programs that in the past attracted overseas participants, but in recent years that has ceased. We have the local junior officers course that attracted members from all the local discipline forces, and it also attracted police officers from our sister Caribbean states. I recall when I attended the junior officer course number 5, we had a participant from St. Lucia, Collins was his name. I can't remember exactly what his rank must be, assistant superintendent, or he might have been an inspector. He came from St. Lucia to attend that course. And he was not the only overseas student. He might have been the only one on that particular course. But you had students from other places over the years that have attended this junior officer course that was highly sought after. The quality was of such that members of the other forces took up positions on that course. Members of the discipline forces, I had a squaddy from the fire. We had a squaddy from the prison service, from the GDF. They all came on the junior officer course because it was a well put together course and prepared junior officers. And in this case, we're talking about persons who held the rank of sergeants if the person was identified to have the potential for officer posting in the police force. When I attended Sergeant Wills, who became a deputy commissioner, was a member of that course. So I say this to emphasize the point that we had the capability of putting out those type of programs, but it has ceased in recent times. And the cessation of those courses had to do with the fact that persons who are put, it is my opinion, that persons who are put in charge of training in the force those persons do not have a clue as to what training is all about. And I asked the question, how can we develop an important organization like the Ghana Police Force when training is not taking place? Training at that senior level is not taking place. It is not taking place locally. It is not taking place. People are not being sent abroad for this specialized training. And no doubt that is why, as I said, and what the theme for today, we have this crisis in the senior management of the police force, which I'll address a little later. And as I've indicated, I've done the research and I've noted, I said to you that we have now the person in charge of training at the Felix Austin Police College, and therefore training in the entire Ghana Police Force, is Superintendent Shiv Prasad Bakas, formerly known as Shiv Prasad Mani. And I mean, I know Mani. Again, I'm saying I'm not knocking at these people, but he has not been prepared. The system never prepared him to take up that senior position. He's in charge of training in the entire Ghana Police Force. He is in charge. Here is a man in charge of training in the entire Ghana Police Force. He has no orientation towards training. He wasn't prepared for that position. So that is what you have. People just being put into positions because perhaps they're favored, perhaps they have a particular rank, and they're trusted in these positions, and you have the issues that keep emerging. And before too, when you look, you had Hicken experience in training, was as a drill instructor at the TSU. Then you had Karim Bash. I don't think Karim Bash had any exposure in specialized training until he got to be the second in charge of training at the Felix Austin Police College. So that is what you have. And therefore, having regards to those postings, one can clearly say that training is not a priority in the Ghana Police Force, which is real sad. Training is supposed to be one of the important pillars of any organization, especially an organization like the Ghana Police Force. People have to be trained in ethics, people have to be trained in law, people have to be trained in so many subjects, domestic violence, so many subjects. And if training is not taking place, and this is training at all levels, because don't tell me that you're going to be training the junior ranks and you're not training the senior ones, because what happens in an hierarchical organization like the Ghana Police Force, if you train the junior ranks and the senior and the middle managers are not trained, then the junior ranks are not going to be able to implement the training that they have received. So you have to make sure that training takes place at all levels. As you know, the saying goes, we are not too old to learn. So I urge the powers that be to make sure that you look at the whole training program. But having talked about training program, it occurred to me that I should have on this program at some subsequent time, perhaps next week, I will engage the gentleman and see if he is available. I refer to no other than retired Assistant Commissioner Mr. Clifton, who is perhaps the most qualified person in Guyana on police training. I plan to invite him so that we can have a discussion and we can seek to advise. Because, you know, as we said, them are watchery, So even though they might not want to come and to tap into our experience and knowledge directly by asking you for recommendations as to how they should move forward, they're going to look. And hopefully once they look, then they will pick up some points and they are not going to be too... They are going to implement the important points. I'm not saying that we know it all, but I suspect that when we discuss trading, especially Mr. Conway that I refer to as CC, he's known to us as CC. CC has a wealth of knowledge in training, a wealth of knowledge. And he will tell you that, and I can tell you that some years ago, he went to a program in Jamaica, training program, and he was so good on that program that he was taken back to Jamaica to be at the Regional Police Training College there as a facilitator, as an instructor. And even when he was in the force, he spent so much time as the person in charge of training that when the time came for him to retire, he was retained to continue with the training. And perhaps that he would have been the last professional training officers we had in the Guyana Police Force. So I plan to invite him so that we can discuss training. I know that in recent times, well, not so recent, before August of 2020, he volunteered his time on Saturdays and he went to the Felix Austin Police College and trained officers and other ranks in various policing disciplines. He lectured to them in various policing disciplines. I too used to be invited, and I would go there once I'm available and lecture to police officers on various policing subjects. One of my pet subjects, they know, was the Police Discipline Act, the whole procedure dealing with police discipline. There were other subjects that I dealt with, ethics in policing and other subjects. So I am going to invite Mr. Conway, and then we will see how that goes. Because I know now they are not going to extend any invitation to us because we are deemed to be persona non grata. You know, Conway and I were on the Police Service Commission, and when the president did not get his way with the forces to be promoted, they targeted myself and Mr. Conway. We got notice to show why we should not be removed from the commission. I mean, we are unique, the two of us, because we got two notices. We got separate notice from the notice was not, let me phrase this as best as I can. People say the Prime Minister wrote us. I want to clarify that. The Prime Minister signed a letter for us to show cause why we should not be removed. I don't think the Prime Minister wrote that letter. I don't think the staff of the Prime Minister's office wrote that letter, because you would not expect that a person in the position of the Prime Minister was write the letters himself. No one would expect that. But at least would have expected if you're saying that the letter emanated from the office of the Prime Minister, someone of his staff, and he would have vetted and agreed. We recall that the first letter was even addressed to the police, to the Public Service Commission, when it was intended for the Police Service Commission. And then I pointed out to, this thing is a comedy. You will see me smiling and see me laughing. But this thing is so serious that what else can you do? What else can you do but to smile? Other than that, you may go crazy. The matter was filed on the 19th of May. And that's the day when they arrested Mr. Conway. That's the day when they went to the airport and sat in the car waiting for me to arrive in Guyana to arrest me along with Mr. Conway. The letter was signed on that date, the first show cause letter. So you have a situation where persons are arrested on the 19th, and the Prime Minister signs a letter dated on the 19th to say that he was advised that persons were charged. And at that time, the persons who were in Guyana did not even appear in court before the magistrate. They appeared the day before. And I continue to say, if you talk about conspiracy, that must have been a conspiracy for the Prime Minister to have signed a letter on the 19th, the same day that the persons appeared. And for clarity, the persons were arrested the afternoon. Persons were arrested the afternoon. So it's not a case where, let's say, all right, you might want to say, they arrested in the morning, and the system is so efficient, so the Prime Minister, all day, they were arrested. Some of them were arrested in the afternoon. So that is what we have. So I'm saying that things are regular. And as I've said, they're watching at us. So I want to make sure that you get the information. And there you're free to take whatever you want to take from us and implement, They're not going to charge you. There's no cost. We don't have any charge attached to it. We want to make sure that you are informed. We know that you're not going to want to approach us because we are charged and we're before the court. Conway, my co-accused Conway, are person non grata in the Guyana Police Force. No problem. There's no skin off of our teeth, right? We have the knowledge. And we gain the knowledge primarily through taxpayers' money. So we are willing to impart. So if you don't want to call us directly, we're going to use this program to educate and to inform the members of the force, members of the public, members of the force in particular, with some of the subjects we are going to deal with. Now, let me say this. And only myself and Conway, as I indicated, I am sure that there are other senior officers out there. You have, I did a survey not so long ago, and I think the figure is a staggering figure. Commissioners, deputy commissioners, that's retired commissioners, deputy commissioners, assistant commissioners, and senior, I think they stopped at senior superintendent. And they were like about 75 of those persons in society, a wealth of knowledge in all area of policing, TSU, general office, senior management, divisional manage. The experience and knowledge is there. And I want to invite you to tap on that knowledge. People are willing, ready, and able to assist the force out of this crisis that I am referring to. But let me move on and deal with the, as I did last week again, the appointment of Commissioner of Police. We know Mr. Nigel Appy, poor chap, is there carrying out the functions of the Commissioner of Police. He has been doing so since late July 2020. We know, as I explained, the appointment of Commissioner requires a certain constitutional process where a police service commission, the president makes the appointment of commissioner and deputy commissioners, but the police, he has to consult with the chairman of the police service commission, who must first consult with the other members of the commission, and then the president is required to consult with the opposition leader before that appointment can be made. So we know not so long ago, persons were named to be on the police service commission. So I suspect that that process is ongoing. The current position in the force is that after Mr. Appy, who recently celebrated his 54th birthday, and as you know, in the police force, in the public service, the mandatory retirement age is 55. So therefore, Mr. Nigel Appy, the person who's carrying out the functions of Commissioner of Police, has less than 1 year before he reaches the mandatory retirement age. The next senior person in the police force is Deputy Commissioner Paul Williams, who is younger than that. I'm not sure, he should be around 50, 51, somewhere around that. He is the next senior man by rank. He's a deputy commissioner, the same rank as Appy, but Appy is senior to him by date of appointment. Again, I said that I'm repeating it for emphasis because I'm conscious of the fact that new people join into the program and they might not know what we're talking about. The current administration clearly does not favor Mr. Williams. After August the 2nd, when the government came into power, allegations were made, perhaps even before that, about Williams, because I said before that, because even before August the 7th, certain persons who were in contact, members of the force who were in contact with the opposition leader, that is what they say. It is alleged that they told him that Williams was involved in certain corrupt processes in relation to trading. That allegation was investigated and found to be false. That allegation was made by Hicken and Karim Bash, self-serving people as the Chief Justice, to borrow from the Chief Justice, self-serving persons. They made that allegation. Investigated, proven to be false. Notwithstanding that, notwithstanding the fact that the allegation was proven to be false, Williams was sent on leave in the first instance. He had, I think, 200 and odd days leave, which is an issue to perhaps to be dealt with. How can a person be allowed to accumulate that number of days? So that is going to be addressed at another time. But he was sent on leave. And when the leave finished and he resumed, he was then sent, because in that time, they brought Brutus, the person who the Chief Justice referred to as self-serving, to be admin where Williams was. And then they brought Hicken to be at operations. So when Williams turned out as the next senior man in the police force, he was sent to the COVID-19 unit. I think he's still there at the COVID-19 unit. So that is the second person, senior person in the force. After Appy, it is Paul Williams, Deputy Commissioner of Police. Then the next person, Assistant Commissioner Clifton Hicken, is the next senior person. And let me say it again. Assistant Commissioner Clifton Hicken is the third senior person in the force. And I'm emphasizing assistant commissioner because I saw a release recently on social media where some computers were presented to the police by a prominent businessman. And the release from the police corporate communications unit, that unit that I refer to as a propaganda unit, identifies Hicken as Deputy Commissioner Hicken, identifies Senior Superintendent Brutus as Deputy Commissioner, Senior Superintendent Brutus. I will continue to say the fact that they allow themselves as Deputy Commissioner, the fact that the police force corporate communication unit addresses them as Deputy Commissioner, the fact that the senior government functionaries, including the Minister of Home Affairs and including the President, addresses them as Deputy Commissioner, that does not make them Deputy Commissioners. And if you think a lie, look at the badge rank that they are wearing. So you have Mr. Hicken with the laurel wreath and cross tail, which is an indication that he's an Assistant Commissioner. Look up to see what the badges are. Definitely he's an Assistant Commissioner. So he's wearing the Assistant Commissioner badge rank, but they're referring to him as Deputy Commissioner. And then you have Brutus, who is wearing a Senior Superintendent badge of rank, but they are referring to him as Deputy Commissioner. How more dishonest, how more unprofessional can these people be? What is wrong with saying that they are Assistant Commissioners performing the function of Deputy Commissioner? What is wrong with saying you're speaking the truth? What is wrong with speaking the truth? In Hicken's case, he's an Assistant Commissioner performing the function of Deputy Commissioner. I did that for 3 years, from 2018 to 2010, when I retired. I was an Assistant Commissioner performing the functions of Deputy Commissioner. And no one addressed me as a Deputy Commissioner. I would not allow that because I was never a Deputy Commissioner. And let me say this for the information of Mr. Hicken and for the information as all. There is a protocol in the Guyana Police Force where the most senior Assistant Commissioner, in this case Hicken, is allowed to wear, in addition to the laurel wreath and cross tail that he's wearing, he's allowed to wear a pip, or what we call the 4-star pip in the police force, to indicate that he's the senior Assistant Commissioner. He's allowed to wear that. The last person to have worn that was Assistant Commissioner Cyril Fredericks, Toppy Fredericks. When I became this most senior Assistant Commissioner, having spent at that time I had spent like about 8 years or so in the rank, I refused to wear it because I said that I'm not going to wear anything just ceremonially. I refused to wear the additional pip, even though I was the senior Assistant Commissioner. And so therefore, Mr. Hicken, if you want something up, you don't have to get the Commissioner or the President. You can go to the quartermaster store and you can put on the pip and you will be correct in doing so. That will identify you as the most senior Assistant Commissioner in the police force, not as a Deputy Commissioner, because you're not that. And perhaps you will get that in time to come. You know, crazy, sing a song, in time to come, also other things will happen in time to come. So please, let me go on to say that I made the point, and I will continue to make it. I know they're not pleased that I keep highlighting these things, but I will continue to do so. I will continue to speak truth to power. I will continue to highlight the deficiencies. I have been saying over and over that Hicken is not qualified material for even Deputy Commissioner, much less Commissioner. I'm not even sure that he's qualified for the Assistant Commissioner role. You know, not so long ago, the police put out something. When I led the police reform, we call it core competencies, meaning that they should have a requirement, a standard fixed requirement for every rank in the force, from constable right up. If you want to be a constable, this is what the entry requirement is. If you want to be promoted sergeant, so it is known, something that all can see, all can know, and all can move, aspire towards. If you look back at that document, it tells you what an Assistant Commissioner should be. There's a police document, they borrowed from some other organization because some of the things they say cannot operate in Guyana, but they borrowed it and given the qualification that they are saying, this current administration in the force is saying the deputy commissioner and the assistant commissioner should have. Many of those people can't make it because they don't have the type of qualification, but that is what they are writing. So again, that tells you about the crisis in the senior management in the force. As I say, I know Hicken very well. I have said so repeatedly, and Hicken knows me well. Hicken knows me very well. I first met Hicken, or I first got to know him when he was transferred from the transport workshop as a constable to the TSU where I was. So that's so long ago. He came there, and those of us who were in the force, and I know a lot of former policemen are on this program, what we call old police. A lot of old police are here. You know that in those days, I'm talking about perhaps in the, I became in charge of the TSU, what year? In 1991, 92, as a deputy superintendent. And you would know that in those days, you're not going to be transferred from the transport workshop to the TSU because you were an outstanding worker. Let me be real. Let me be real. You are not going to be transferred from the transport workshop to the TSU because of your stellar performance at the transport workshop. And to be more direct, you'd have been transferred because some allegation would have been made against you. That is how the system worked. I did not make it so. That is how it worked. Once you're transferred from some place to the TSU was regarded as a dumping ground, and therefore you were transferred. He was transferred to the TSU. And he even reminded me at some stage that I was responsible for him getting his first promotion to Lance Corporal. So perhaps people would say I showed poor judgment from since back then, but not necessarily. Hicken was, I believe, was at that junior level, was a busybody, was we say a good boy. I mean, we can say that we were close. But as the years moved on, we got to realize how dangerously ambitious Clifton was. Dangerously ambitious. Will do anything to get ahead. And ask Happy, the man who is there, can know the functions of the commissioner, ask Happy about the backstabbing and the backbiting. That is the person he has evolved to be. And that is where the problem is. He has evolved to be this person who is dangerously ambitious and who wants to get there at any cost. And he has said that prior to August 2020, the opposition leader with whom he had contact promised him that he's going to make him the commissioner once the PPP regained power. PPP regained power on August the 2nd, 2020. So therefore, I think he's still expecting to be appointed. Maybe people would say that would be another campaign promise fulfilled if he's appointed commissioner of police. Well, let's wait and see what will happen with that. Now, let me go on to say, again, I know Clifton. Clifton knows me. In 2009, I had the privilege of lecturing at the University of Guyana on a course they call Public Safety and Security. Clifton was a member of my class. He was one of my students. I didn't think he graduated. For I say not. There were other members of the force on that program as well. And they are still around. Some of them are still around in command position. I didn't think Clifton graduated. So check the record. Check the record. Now let me say this. Let me go on. Further, Clifton is 53 plus. That is the stated age. I am not going to question whether it's accurate or not. I was not the what is called the person who deliver. I was not that person. I was not his godfather, right? So therefore, I don't know his exact age. But the age on the record is 53 plus. People have said that is wrong. I told you the story before where people tend to change these things. So, but he's 53 plus. So let me read. A man who is 53 plus, who are you going to think, remember the mandatory retirement age is 55. If the government is really serious about reform in the force, about development of the police force, outside of all the thing about qualification and all of that, right? You think they're going to be appointing someone to the post of commissioner who is 53 years plus? Even if you think you're going to extend him on to 60, even if you're going to extend him on to 60, I believe that is too short. You have to get someone that is too short a time. You have to get someone who is younger, someone who is more qualified. So let's understand. Get someone who is more qualified. Now, I noted that in some, this thing is nice, I noted that a particular media operative over the years has been trying to portray a certain image of Mr. Hicken, have him doing outreaches in Agricola and Boys Town, those depressed committees. That ain't gonna work. Let me understand this thing clearly. That is not gonna work. That is not gonna work. Then you have other senior people like Brutus. Brutus. The Chief Justice said that she found Brutus to be self-serving. In my view, that alone should have been packed up and moved out of the force or someplace else. You have a self-serving man. The court found him to be self-serving. He's there as deputy commissioner, admin. Are we joking? Are we really serious about development in the Ghana police force? I outlined before all the things that he has been involved in. I outlined the vindictive nature, transferring a young mother to the interior because she complained against Karimbash. I spoke about the Dulachan matter, Pastor Dulachan matter, reacted and arbitrarily dismissed Dulachan, arbitrarily sending home Richard M. Tage, right? His installation of Prem Narain. All of these things disqualifies him from being in that position, but he is favored. Remember, President asked the chairman of the Police Service Commission about promotion for Brutus. And when he learned that Brutus was not on the shortlist, Brutus was encouraged. I said, yes, Brutus was encouraged to move to the High Court. He moved to the High Court. He was joined by Mani and Prem Narain and those other persons, Stanley, and all of them. And the Chief Justice dismissed the appeal. The application. She dismissed the application. And these persons are still there. Karimbash, you know what Karimbash passed? With all the harassment of recruits and other female, he is in charge of SOCO, Special Organized Crime Unit, and his vindictiveness in coming after members of the Police Service Commission who had cause to recommend or initiate a process to have him disciplined based on allegation, a constitutional process. He's allowed to victimize and to pursue and to bring trumped up charges. So those are the people you have. Those are the persons you have there. There are others I'm going to deal with later. I know they're cringing because they want to know when I'm going to get to them. Well, I'll get to you in due course. But let me say this. I know the time is running out. I want to finish off this part. Now, let me say this. And I want to ask you a question. Remember, this can be classes, I want you students out there, you people who are academically inclined and who like to do research, to find out for me, and perhaps you can make the note on social media, who is the senior officer in the Ghana Police Force that was described on social media as being a barely literate, unintelligent vulture. Some time ago, somebody described the senior officer like that. That is your homework. Find out who is that person. Now, let me say this. Let me move on to say that the current crisis in the senior management requires a serious decision-making by the government. Serious. Other forces in the region, when faced with a similar problem, recruited from the outside. If you Jamaica, for example, the current commissioner from Jamaica, Mr. Anthony, what's his name? Anthony Anderson. He came from the Jamaica Defense Force. We have, before him, Jamaica brought in a gentleman from the UK, Mr. Mark Shields. Then in Trinidad, the immediate past commissioner from Trinidad, Mr. Gary Griffith. He was not a police, he came to head the force, though he's involved in a lot of issues now and controversy. Before then, Trinidad went to Canada, where they brought in Mr. Gibbs. Then they also, when Mr. Brips came in, I think it was 2010, Mr. Gibbs came into Trinidad Police Force as a commissioner, and Gibbs brought along a deputy commissioner. He became a deputy commissioner in Trinidad Police Force. I think his name was Jack Iwatsky. So the examples are there where persons from the outside came because of what is perceived to be a crisis in senior management to remedy the situation. And let me say this, the recruitment of outsiders in Guyana is not a new thing, it's not a strange thing. In 1992, when the PPP came to power, they brought in persons who became in the officers' rank and in the other ranks. Those persons primarily were taken to the President Guard. Then in 1994, and listen to this carefully, because in 1994, I was the head of the Presidential Guard. I left to go to police, to Staff College in the UK. And while I was at the Staff College in the UK, I was aware that efforts were being made to recruit someone to head the Presidential Guard. And the person who was recruited, take out your pen, make your notes, was John Slingshot Drapal. Yes, the Calypsonian, the man who sang all of these nice Christmas songs. He was recruited by the government straight from the road to head the Presidential Guard. So when I came back from Staff College at the end of 1994, Drapal was there as the head of the Presidential Guard, and I went back to West Demerara to take up command in that position. So it is not strange. This current government has done it before. And I will urge them to think outside the box, because the situation now is as Joe Braswood said, the situation is chaotic. The situation is critical. And therefore, you need to think outside the box. And more recently, in August of 2020, a lot of persons were recruited into the Presidential Guard directly. Presidential Guard is a branch of the police force. They were recruited directly into the Presidential Guard. And I mentioned it last week, recruited in August, promoted to sergeant in September. And in one case, a man is recommended to be an assistant superintendent in December. Well, even before December, the recommendation would have been made, even though he did not qualify, he did not pass the appropriate qualifying examination. And that is one of the reasons, that particular case is one of the reasons why the government and these corrupt and incompetent police officers decided to come after members of the Police Service Commission. No other reason, because we said, no, we are going to stick to the established policy, and only persons who are qualified were going to be promoted. And I challenge you to monitor when the new Police Service Commission comes into existence to see who will be promoted. I challenge you to just keep your eyes open, because these issues have what I refer to as a limited shelf life. Things happen, and then they do a rope-a-dope, and after a few weeks or perhaps a few months, the general public tend to forget, and then they move it. And that is why that is one of the reasons for this program too, because I will continue to highlight, I will continue to remind persons of all of these incidents. The interaction I had with the president, first interaction the 16th of September, second interaction sometime later September, the interaction with on the 23rd of December 2020, the Minister of Home Affairs direction to the Commission to have, which occurred on the 24th. I will continue. Brutus, through his lawyer, writing to the Commission on the 17th of December, threatening that if the Commission went ahead with promotion, they will take legal action to nullify the promotion. Brutus going to court on the 31st of December 2020. The letter to suspend the Commission on the 16th of June 2021, a mere 2 months, less than 2 months before the Commission life expired. I am going to continue to highlight and to remind you of this issue. So it's not going to be swept under the carpet. It is not going to be swept under the carpet. Let me take this opportunity to remind you that I mentioned it last week, that the current matter where the Police Service Commission took the commissioner and the secretary to court, and that matter is before Justice Gino Prasad. And at the last hearing, he indicated that he will summon the parties in January, that is this month, to render a decision. Well, today is the 26th. We have not been summoned as yet. I hope that he does so in the next few days so we can hear what the decision is and decide on our way forward. Now, let me say this. Let me, I think, having said about recruiting competent people and all of that, I get a strong belief that the government has no interest really in doing so, no interest in professionalizing the force. Because if you want to professionalize the force, then you can't weaponize the force. You can't call and give instructions. That office that is located southwest of the SOCO headquarters can instruct who to be charged, who not to be charged, who should go on bail, how much bail they should go in. If you have a professional police force, that type of behavior would not be encouraged. So they might very well want the status quo to remain, where you have these incompetent, self-serving, and unprofessional people in these senior positions. So when you call them, they will do whatever you want them to do without asking questions. So that is why, of course, you would have had a situation where a person who is charged and placed before the court by SOCO, summoned to go to court on the 15th of October, turns up to go to court, and they're there to arrest the person to go to court. As ridiculous as it sounds, that is what you have, that is true. As ridiculous as it sounds, a person turns up to go to court because he's summoned to go to court on a particular day, and they're there waiting at the court to arrest the person to take him to court. You think they're ordinary? You think they are ordinary? You think they're ordinary, unprofessional, incompetent, and lack of knowledge? No, they're not. They are just there. So when you say jump, they ask you how high they should jump. And what can happen? They're going to jump and they're going to jump overboard. And no lifeguard or life-saving device will be there. They're going to jump overboard. Let me understand. I have, based on what is going on, I have this strong suspicion that the government likes the status quo. Have these people there, move them around, keep them on balance, put people in position that they're not capable of. So when, like you want the situation you have in Bobby's, a person is robbed, the media goes to the commander. Somebody told me this morning, the man seems to be so nervous and uncomfortable interacting with the media. Yeah, because he's not trained. Don't blame him. He's not trained to have that type of interaction. He's not a commander material. So understand. So don't blame him fully. Don't. And then let me try to wind up or wind down this discussion. So what? We are almost an hour. Let me close by saying this. I noted, as to be expected, some of the well, let me be careful. I can't call them certain names, because when you say certain names, the people going to say they're emotionally disturbed, and then they go make a complaint to the unit, and then you're arrested for violating this, what is cybercrime law. So you can't mention certain names. So I would like to, a decent name, I would like, what should I call them? The amphibians. A toad or a crapo is an amphibian. In other words, they live in water, they live on land. So I don't like to, I think the term crapo has become a derogatory term, right? So I would like to say these amphibians are going to want to come after you. That was to be expected. So you get the one amphibian on social media saying that I should not speak about the constitutional provisions for the appointment of the Police Service Commission, because when I was appointed, those provisions were not followed. And I invite you to look on this very page. You will see the article where the consultation between President Granger and the opposition leader took place to appoint the chairman of the Police and the Public Service Commission. So, Mr. Amphibian, just go and read. Just go and read. Then there is one who yesterday commented that when I was in the force, he looked like he was, well, he is a police because I've done my research. Don't test me, Don't test me. I got resources, I got skills. So he commented yesterday that when I was commander, I used to just transfer people. What did I do? And I am referring to this sergeant on the East Bank because I did my research. He is stationed on the East Bank. This is the same man who, when he was stationed at another unit, went home with his firearm, left it careless, and one of his children discharged and injured him or herself with that firearm. So don't rush up. Don't rush up. If you want to test me, I'm going to call your name and so on this occasion. But if you want to go and spew nonsense on social media about me or anyone else, I'm going to present with facts. Because remember, this thing is facts-based, you know. This is facts-based. And then there's another one who asks, what did I do when I was in the force to deal with corruption? Well, I'm not going to answer him because I saw someone answer him this morning. But if you want, sir, I can tell you, and I think on one of these programs, I don't want it to be about me, but on one of these programs, I will dedicate an episode to tell you, because the Attorney General has also been asking, who is Paul Slow? I will use one of these occasions to tell you who is Paul Slow, what Paul Slow stood for, and what he continues to stand for. So understand, if I'm not afraid of criticisms, if you want to make objective criticisms, I am thick-skinned enough to take it. I'm not going to run to the cybercrime unit to complain that I'm emotionally disturbed to get you arrested. No, I'm not going to do that. But if you come sideways, if you rush up, according to Charmaine Blackman, if you rush up, you're going to get lashed up. So watch how you're coming. Watch how you're coming. Mind your P's and your Q's. I am easy and ready and able to deal with all of you amphibians who want to come and spew a lot of nonsense. We are past our time this morning, folks. I want to thank you for your involvement. I want to thank you for finding time to be on this program. I want to end, as I usually do, by urging you to follow the COVID-19 protocols. The numbers are staggering. 1,100 and odd deaths in Guyana, an average of over 700-800 cases per day. Comrade, please, folks, please make sure that you do all you can to follow the protocols and to remain free from this deadly virus. Once again, thank you very much for listening, and God's willing, we'll meet again next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Guyana time, 10 a.m. New York time or Eastern Standard Time for another program of Speaking Out, exposing corruption and incompetence. May God bless you all. Thank you for listening.